age, a spectacular talent. And there were a few people at Disney who were willing to give him a chance to develop a few projects, greenlight very few. One of those projects was Nightmare Before Christmas. Finally, Tim was at a point where he wanted to take Nightmare out of mothballs. Disney said, please give us a chance. We want to work with you. We'll give you autonomy. And Rick Heinrichs, who'd been there from the start, got me and Tim back together. And, you know, we plugged in and have had a great collaboration ever since.
Hello, Ogie. Jack, but they said you were dead.
There was something about the three-dimensional animation that I always found in certain instances to be more powerful, more real. I've never liked animation just for animation's sake. I always think it should, you know, it should just serve whatever the story or is.
After having gone through many different types of animation techniques, stop motion for me is the best of live action and the best of cartoon animation. You get to have the incredible invention and fantasy of cartoon animation. You can't do it as easily, but you can have fantastic characters that you could never have in live action.
Surprised, aren't you? I knew you would be.
As you can see, stop-motion animation has come a long way since Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer flew across your TV screens. When E-Features continues, we will show you the innovative new methods used to bring The Nightmare Before Christmas to life.
There's something about people moving a figure and breathing life into it that is very exciting. There's an energy to that. It's a beautiful art form. It's a very special person who could be an animator, you know, because it requires a lot of patience and it requires you to be an artist. And those are sometimes, you know, the artistic impulse, which is more spontaneous to me, and then the patience required are very hard things to integrate. And it takes a special, crazy person to do it.
Basically what you do is you pose Jack, take a picture of him, you repose him, you might raise an arm, turn the head, step back, take another picture. You're doing this in very fine amounts. You do it 24 times a second. And when you're done animating a scene after 3 or 4 days, you've animated a few hundred frames, you play it back and you might have 5 seconds of Jack Skellington without any hands in there touching him being alive.
There's a process that you see it unfolding as, you know, maybe 10% of the animation is done, and then 20, and then 50, and then 60, you know, till you finally reach, you know, all of it being animated 2.5 years later.
This is our Sally show. As you can see, we have puppets up here that are in various stages of repair. Some of them are stand-in puppets, others are ready for shots. For fabrication, Sally was very difficult. She had so many different parts. She, like Jack, had a replacement series. Hers were snap-on faces, like masks. This is a kit that shows Sally very sad. This one, for example, which is one of my favorites, although it doesn't get used very often, is Sally very angry.
We'll fed a photograph of each head into this computer. Then we pick a head to match each syllable of the character's dialogue or song. This establishes which head or mouth position the animator will use.
To do a smile, they have to go like, they have a head that's here, they take it off, they put on a head that's here, they take it off, they put on a head here. Amazing. And then in scenes where, you know, like town meetings, where you think of all those characters that they had to manipulate.
Let me go! Sandy Claus, in person.
Over here, I'd like to show you what an armature looks like. Each one is very intricate. Fits perfectly, so it has a nice, smooth movement. And this is what's contained within each and every one of these puppets. This is the main workroom for the fabrication department. This is where we originally create the puppets, put their new paint job on when they first are made, and this is where they come up for repair and maintenance, kind of like a hospital or a clinic for our puppets.
Let me explain. There's no foot inside, but there's candy. Or sometimes it's filled with small toys.
Small toys? Do they bite? They snap or explode in a sack? Or perhaps they just spring out and scare girls and boys.
Seeing the first animation come back, it looked so much better than I'd imagined in my head that it really was a great motivating force because they did a phenomenal job. And I'd imagined what I thought it would look like, and it looked much better than that.
I think it's amazing looking, and if you have the slightest bit of knowledge, which is as much as I have, about stop frame animation and what it entails, it's unbelievable the work that's gone into this.
I looked in every mausoleum. We opened the sarcophagi.
I tromped through the pumpkin patch.
When you see the movie and you see the detail in, say, a crowd scene in the town square of all these figures moving and understand the complexities of what they had to do to get each of them moving, you could see it again and again and again and still, you know, try to pick up something you didn't get before because of the amount of detail.
Acting's hard enough, but imagine trying to create a character by just using your voice. We'll sound off about that fiendish challenge when E Features The Nightmare Before Christmas continues.
Next! Fantastic! Now, why don't you all practice on that, and we'll be in great shape.
When Tim started describing the character to me, it didn't take a lot of searching in my own soul to find what Jack Skellington is. There's so much of my own personality in his personality, the getting very enthusiastic and then plunging down into this melancholy state. I mean, that's me.
Jack, I know you think something's missing, but... Ow! Sorry.
You start doing voices, and you know, from reading it, and they sent me the pictures, you know, all the drawings of Sally, and that kind of gives you an idea of how she might sound. I actually, at the beginning, tried to do more of a broken voice, because I thought her voice is together as her body, you know, is stitched up as her body. But that kind of thing, I think, can get in the way after a while. It's like, okay, enough with the broken voice. So...
Now and forever, for it is plain, as anyone can see.
It's definitely a different kind of acting because they are dealing in, you know, milliseconds almost, you know, because they stop and move something, you know, and then they shoot, then they move, then they shoot, then everything's manually moved in between, you know, a split second of a shot. So in the acting, you're dealing in seconds almost too, so there's a lot of focus on, you know, 2 words in a line, or, you know, or at the most 1 line, the way it fits in, and you know, Henry Selick is thinking in these split seconds, so that's the way you work when you're doing the lines too. It's a different kind of acting. They always had the storyboards there when we were doing the voices, and Henry would always go through, you know, what exactly was happening, and he was always very clear about, you know, they're being thrown down a chute now, and you got to scream, and you scream for this long and not this long, and you know. So yeah, they were very good at giving us a visual idea of what we were, you know, voicing.
He's ancient! He's ugly! I don't know which is worse.
They have you record the whole thing first, and then they animate or do the stop action to the vocal tracks. They took some footage, I think, when I was recording the song, for some facial things, you know. Being a stage actor, I can't do it without doing it all, you know. So they taped some of that. I think they did use, the clips that I've seen so far, I did see a few things that looked like, I said, well, that looks like me a little bit, and inside that burlap.
Well, come on, old man!
The communication between Tim and I was also very, very straight, very clean, and very clear. So it was probably the easiest time I've ever had working with him, in the sense that he would talk about it a little bit, we'd talk about a little bit of the story, and I'd hear the song as he was talking, and I'd almost have to shoo him out the door and begin, and 3 days later say, you want to hear it?
I've never known
worked with him on every movie, and it's been great.